Hello, possums. Well, I woke up this morning to find the Australian stock market had crashed $200 billion overnight in anticipation of a recession in the US. So this is part of the global repercussions for the madness. But you know what the upside is? No one gives a toss because the general feeling, of course, that's not quite true. People do care. But it's like you guys who support Canadians pushing back. It's like most people feel, well, you have to let him do the worst, and then we'll all recover on the other side of that, you know. So that's where we're at. And that made me look up what does Australia trade mainly with the US? Because we're a big commodity country. You know, we're very good at um, sort of going and occupying huge tracts of Indigenous land and digging holes in the ground. So we do export zinc and other minerals to you guys, but one of our biggest exports is vaccines. And so, because we're now back in the medieval times pre-science, it's impacted our vaccine sales and other scientific products because scientists are up in arms. I know American scientists are trying to get out, you know, because there's no support for science. And to state the obvious, America got powerful post-war by pumping money into the STEM subjects, you know, science, technology, engineering, and medicine, and led the world. And now that's no longer the case. But I would point out the rot regarding science actually started under George Bush, but that's for another video, another day. So RFK Jr. has had a 40-year head start thanks to Bush. So he only had to do a few things to push the USA out of the competitive scientific market. So that was over breakfast. Well, it was breakfast. Never been a big one for breakfast. So that news. Now, it's hard to know, as always, where to start, isn't it? Just this shocking deluge of horror. But I think we have to start with Elon because he's the face of so much of this stuff. Do you notice when you watch these videos of weeping farmers or upset people generally, they'll often refer to Doge, they'll refer to Musk, but they don't make the connection with Trump or refuse to make that last connection when he's the one sending him off. Okay. So you had this extraordinary situation where Trump had a meeting. Well, you wouldn't even call it a cabinet, wouldn't you? I mean, really, it's not a cabinet in the sense of any usual political party in the Western world. It's a gathering of inadequate individuals. But he went there and then said, "Oh, Elon, um, well." He's the head of Doge, the Department of Grid and Evil, but not really the head. You're the head of your department, so you have to do the sackings. But if you don't do the sackings, Elon, who isn't the head of Doge, even though I just said he was the head of Doge, Elon will come in and do the cuts for you. What sort of gobbledygook arrangement is this? You know, you can't make head nor tail. And that is why he may be the president of the United States, but he's no longer the leader of the free world. People actually are over the threats, the bullying, and the crap, and they're looking elsewhere. So, blessings to Canada. So, part two of my breakfast was the Yeti imposes 250% tariffs on the dairy industry of Canada. Really? You can see the considered response that this really entails, can't you? You would have thought about this deeply. What do you mean Canada's putting tariffs on us? I'll put 250% on them. This is actually crazy talk, and we are deeply in the Mad King territory. But I digress, because how can you not? So it hasn't been a good week for Elon, the deadbeat dad. The rocket exploded. Now, are you sitting down, intrepid viewers? Are you sitting down? The description he put up on X it wasn't an explosion. Wait till I get this right. It was a rapid, unscheduled disassemblage. What? I'll say it again. A rapid, unscheduled disassemblage. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, WTF. I got that from Gary on Twins Tarot. It might sound better in French. Maybe it was a disassemblage. I don't know what it was, but it was an old-fashioned exploding rocket to the rest of us. Now, now, as most of you will be aware, there was the fire in Boston targeting the Tesla chargers. There was the virtual firebombing of the Tesla dealership in France. There was this shooting up, spraying in Salem of a Tesla dealership. So all the anger's actually being directed at this point towards the Muskrat. Did you see the footage of Mardi Gras? Someone thought it was a good idea to move the marshals for Mardi Gras around in a Tesla truck. Well, they got bombarded with beads. There's something fabulous about that imagery, is there not? 70%, 76% of German Tesla sales gone. So all his different industries are crumbling, and he's now wearing a bulletproof vest. He's got his own little Kevlar. Not looking good. So let's have a look at what's happening. And then we'll look if the Yeti is going to have to ditch this relationship. Can he, will he, won't he? But let's look at Musk himself for a moment. Okay, come on down. Oh, it's so difficult to keep up. Oh, upside down cards. Oh, Queen of Cups, that could be one of the baby mamas. There's his challenge. What has he been up to? Oh, he's not really with it, is he? This is not someone with a great deal of control. Let me have a gulp of coffee here. Do you like my cup from one of my nieces? Maori Pacific Islander designs, Polynesian designs on that side, Aboriginal designs on this side. How good is that? Oh. Now, this is the feminine energy in his world. He is nothing but a ball of toxic, misogynistic energy. So I think this is one or more of the baby mamas, right? But they've turned up right in the middle. I still think they have a lot of power on social media to point out how bad he is. Okay, what is his challenge? He's getting a bit tired. So even if you're a speed freak, there comes a point when your brain and your body actually gets exhausted And that sometimes doesn't happen at the same time. But he's been defending this, which is fending off the collapse of his businesses. He's killed X. SpaceX is not doing well. Tesla's tanking, and people are trying to get out of their Starlink contracts. Different shoes, caught on the hop. He didn't think this would happen because he doesn't think past his next whatever. Okay, he's been doing everything at warp speed. The problem with doing that is the reactions are now coming at warp speed. How's he handling it in himself? He's detached. It's all right. Look over here. Everything's okay. I'll just do something else. Right. This is not the regular card of delusion, but in this context of this reading, he's just not getting it because, like the Yeti, he never takes responsibility for any of his crazy business ideas and failings. Nada. Fool's gold. I think the money's going to just drift away. I don't think he's going to end up on the side of the road, but this is big time fool's gold because it's right next door to the high priestess. So even though he would have money secreted away in the usual places, whether that's Cyprus or the Cayman Islands or the Dominican Republic or wherever it is, it's not that he's going to be down, but he's going to lose his fame. There's an element of fame here that is fake, unlike the star card. So I think what's happening, to sum that up, I think he's falling apart on the inside, but he's too egotistical and shallow to acknowledge it. So he thinks he's all right when he's in fact not all right. Not all right. Now, while I remember, thank you guys who've been very concerned about my safety with the cyclone. It's one of the biggest that has hit Australia, but I'm 1,000 miles from that. But it is where I grew up, so I know the rivers that flood. I know the patterns of how it hits places and all of that. So I do still feel it, but I'm not in danger. Now, in other news, the Yeti, I mean, you can't keep up with the firings. You actually can't keep up. Someone's done a calculation of 246,000 actual and immediately looming firings this week. This week. That was the best part of 250,000 last time I looked, because you 50,000 at the IRS in tax season and the potential for the 80,000 person cut to Veterans Affairs. Ooh la la, we're going to cover that today. But where was I? Oh, part of the mass firings. This was done by the Yeti himself. He sacked half. Look, you've got to laugh. Sometimes you've got to just laugh. He's cut half the staff of the DOJ. Now, this is coinciding. They are facing, as lawyers representing the DOJ, that's the good, the bad, and the ugly, 100 court cases in the last 35 days. That's apart from everything that was on their books. They have not had a day off, and they're just, one of them described it as, we're drowning here. So this is absolutely good news because it means that they, by definition, are going to be inadequately prepared when they go into these 100 court cases, because no human attorneys, even with the best will in the world, even the most skilled, have not got enough staff to do it. So this is beyond crazy. So I want to have a little look at how federal workers are feeling from the inside, because when he did that weird meeting of the cabinet, which is really just a set of empty drawers, isn't it? You wouldn't call it a cabinet. and he seemingly backed off from some of it, but not really. So, how are the DOJ lawyers feeling? How are the other Fed workers feeling? I'm going to move actually to this other delicious predictions deck. It's not really tarot, but they're fun. So let's have a look at this from the point of view of the federal workers. Because it wouldn't matter what department you were in, you'd be really worried. I hope they're banding together, but we'll see. Are they joining up? I'm going to do 3 cards that are from the normal deck and 3 cards from the predictions deck. Okay. So, normal deck. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. They are joining together. Okay, because most of them are used to being in big departments, you can actually, if someone had the presence of mind to access their own email networks before they were shunted out the door, and I'm sure there's a lot of informal organisations. If you work for this department, please contact here, right? So they are joining together. Absolutely, they are. They're prepared to take him on. I think what happens with any big shocks like this, it takes sometimes people are thrown completely and they're just in their own world. But these are going to absolutely grow with Empress energy. Now, let's look at our newbie cards. Tension escalates, so many people, society collapse. Okay, now these speak for themselves. That's why they're not real tarot cards, but they are good to work with in this critical time because each one has quite an extreme statement. So tensions escalate in relation to the federal workers. So many people are impacted. Most of those 250,000 are federal workers, 250,000 federal workers who have families and commitments. And even if they're young singles, they were career building, now they're not. And if they're not young singles, they have other long-term responsibilities to service, and there's so many of them. So you could safely say there's 2 to 4 people for every one of those impacted. Same with the vets, obviously. Society collapse. Now, well, let's be frank. It cannot continue in this way without a societal collapse. But it's at this stage, because it's early days, he's only been in 5 minutes. This is the risk. And federal workers, I think more and more will point out, either because they'll be saying it, without us, your little world will collapse, MAGA voters in Rust states or in the Bible Belt or in the South or wherever. Sadly, it takes a lot of other people with it. But I think it has to get this bad for people to join together. And let me just have a brief sociology moment with you. One of the things I talk about with first year students, in sociology, we talk about the private and the public. Now, with neoliberalism, which was the Reagan Thatcher idea, everyone should be a rugged individual and just pay for it, and you should just send your kids to good schools, and you just should use, your inheritance to do that. They assume people have money and make money, and all these assumptions are built in. And if you don't, it's because you're a loser. Right? It's a dreadful mindset. But people have bought into it, and it was it tacked onto the back of the American myth of the Marlboro Man, right? So when people experience something like losing a job, it feels private. It feels like, oh, my world has collapsed. Oh God, my debts are mounting up. I can't pay my mortgage. This is terrible. And it is. Of course, it's personal. But when you've lost that job, it's in a situation like this, it's a public and systemic interference in your life. If you can work it out, oh, it isn't just me, it's the other 250,000 people, you realize that you have power. You are no longer just in your own pain. You still have to work out your solutions, but you're so much better off once you know you're part of a class action and there may be a massive reimbursement for lost wages down the track. Or you can make a class action to the banks not to foreclose on people's homes because they were part of the mass layoffs. So there is bargaining power. So it can either go in this direction or people can work together. This is so important. Oh, God, so important. And for all of you guys, the good guys, oh, look, the shadow card. Yeah, absolutely the devil, It is demonic what they are doing and what the GOP are letting them do. And some are even supporting it, but most have gone quiet. Oh, let's go to the shame file. Excuse me, have to have a slug of coffee. Mm. In the shame file this week, Alina Hubber. Oh, perhaps the vets just weren't very good at what they did, or maybe they didn't even turn up to work. We can't pay people who don't turn up to work. Excuse me? How dare you? Okay, so she's top of the shame file for 2 weeks running. But GOP, Republican Texas, Brandon Gill, same thing, and Rich McCormick from Georgia. They also said shocking things like basically, we've got to get on top of this debt and it doesn't matter and people have just got to understand. And no, actually, people don't have to just understand. They might end up resisting you. And fairness, Mark Sanford, South Carolina GOP, at least went and stamped his feet in the Yeti's office and said, what you are doing is really, basically, I think he even used the word cruel. And he really stood up to the bully. Oh, speaking of the bully. Now, when you watch this video, even if you don't comment, most of you do, a lot of you do, go and check what I'll be pinning there. It's a 5-minute interview with Malcolm Turnbull. He was our Prime Minister when the Yeti was in the first time. And he tells a couple of hilarious stories about what it's like being on the telephone with Donald, right? It's really funny. So enjoy that. Now, thanks for all the feedback. I went on Tarot by the Bay with Dave and Gary, the twins. We had a hoot. Such a good time. So that. Okay. Now, back to business here. Um, mm, 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 mm. Let's have a look. I think let's have a look. Energy for you guys in the next few weeks. Now, the protests are mounting, and on the 14th, your 14th, it'll be my 15th, the Veterans March. I think it will be epic. I think it will be epic. And that's only, what, a week away from now. But now what I want to do is have a look. Oh, oh, just in case you missed it, China's imposing counter tariffs on pork, beef, soybeans, wheat, chicken, and corn. They're pushing back, but Canada's leading the charge. And it's very, very brave of Canada to do this because it impacts Canadian economy too, all this stuff. No one wants to be in a global war. They certainly don't want to be um, in a war with their biggest business partner. So I admire those Americans, particularly the intrepid viewers on this channel. We all stand with you, Canada. Bless. And the Canadian joke, of course, is even Quebec is now Canadian. Yeah, Connecticut. I think Brooklyn Heights should be ambassador for Canada. Love Brooklyn. But this is for you guys, how to help cope. This is just for the next week, okay? Just for the next week. Because March is epic. Oh, what fell out? Yes, all right, we'll keep that. Okay. Now, all right. Now this tells a story. This is moving to a safer place. And symbolically, whatever that is for you. Because here's the thing, so much is happening by the hour. We cannot be in a constant state of reaction. All right, so that means, see, this sword's putting guardrails. Don't carry all the baggage with you all through your day. So I would suggest maybe having a dedicated half hour or something for the news, but then you park it, literally park it, and go about your day. Now, these are Pentacles cards. Yes, they're about money. Be careful with your money, but it's also about planting your feet and getting into nature. Now, even if you live in a city, most cities do have parks and little bits of waterways or something. Try and get into something green. Regardless of whether you do or don't, these cards are about grounding yourself, staying grounded, so you literally don't blow your lid with all this. And this is guarding against the gaslighting. Now, Hogarth has famously named this stinky fish and this is being bombarded with this stuff. But let's go back to its traditional meaning. This is the most artistic of the pages. So please find somewhere in your day and your week for art and music, because both art and music transport you, literally transport you. Now, it might be different for different ones of you, different things you like, but if you played piano and gave up at the end of elementary school or something, you know what? Maybe get yourself a little keyboard. If you haven't sung for years, maybe you don't have the best voice in the world, doesn't matter. Join a community choir. Maybe if you do have a good voice, you could start a community choir. While you're cooking, you can just put on some music from back in the day. When you were 22, put on 3 tracks of your favorite sounds from back in the day. I swear you'll be transported. Have a little bop. There are different ways to absorb and create music. So there's your homework for this week. And please let me know what you end up doing with that. All right, there was other news, but we don't have to go there. Love you guys. Take care. And I'll see you soon. Don't forget to check in the pinned comments. Take care, guys.